We're really excited this week about a brand new theme for our Wonderful Day in the Lord broadcast. We've been asking for a while for people, especially in our church and some others as well, to reach out to us with questions. Questions about the Bible, questions about the Christian life, questions about theology. We've got quite a stack of questions that have come in, so I'm going to spend the next several weeks looking through some of these questions, and some of them we'll look at in detail. Others maybe very quickly. It all depends on the question, of course. And we invite your questions as well. If you have some, let us know, and hopefully we can hit some of those as well. But the first one I'm going to look at this week is pretty much all week. It has to do with the angelic world. There's a lot of issues, a lot of questions, a lot of interest really about angels and about the satanic world as well. And so I want to spend this week talking about that as an overview. Now, we've dealt with this in very great detail at our church in a class on angelology and demonic issues. So this is a thumbnail. This is not the full thing. You can find our writings on this on our website at tottministries.org. But I'm going to give kind of a thumbnail this week as we look at some of these. And we'll start with angels. And by angels, we mean the good angels, the holy angels of God. And they are created beings at some point in time, and Scripture is not clear exactly when the angels were created. So we cannot be sure about that. Somewhere, either prior to the creation of the universe, the physical universe, or maybe shortly thereafter, angels were created, and they were holy angels. They were not fallen angels at that originally. They were servants of God. So we know that much, but beyond that, we have to be very careful. We don't know a whole lot more. We do know they exist. We do know they do not die. We know that they are eternal in that sense, but there's also the good angels, the holy angels, and the fallen angels are often called demons or evil spirits. We'll look at those later in the week. But let's start with the good angels. In Colossians chapter 2, we find that even the good angels can be problematic. Not the angels themselves, but the fact that people can tend to worship almost anything, including the angels. And he says in Colossians chapter 2, says, verse 18, "Let no one keep defrauding you of your prize, but delighting in self-abasement and the worship of angels," going into detail about the visions he's seen and being puffed up for nothing by his fleshly mind, and not holding fast to the head, from whom the entire body, being supplied and held together by the joints and ligaments, grows with the growth that is from God. Now, what he's talking about here is apparently a tendency in the ancient world among pagans, perhaps, and maybe some Jews, some of the converts, perhaps. So he's talking here to Christians. And so apparently they had brought into their Christian life some of their former mythologies and false teachings and whatever. But one of the problems they were facing seemingly had to do with the worship of angels. So angels are incredibly powerful, magnificent beings. God has used them throughout history for many, many purposes. They serve Him, they worship Him, they serve us, as we will see in just a moment. And so it's easy for people to start to think they're having visions of angels, or that angels should be worshipped. And they exonerate angels. They lift angels up to a status that they were never meant to be lifted up to. They're servants, they're slaves of God, and they serve us. They're not to be worshipped. But this group of people were struggling seemingly with that. And as we think about that, we would note over later on in the book of Hebrews chapter 1, verse 14, that as far as we're concerned, as far as people are concerned, they're not to be worshipped. They're actually serving us who know Christ. It says in verse 14 of chapter 1, "Are they not all ministering spirits sent to render service for the sake of those who will inherit salvation?" So the issue here is that one of their particular ministries, and they have several, but when it comes to us, they are servants of God for us. They're serving us who know Jesus Christ, and those, it says the elect, so even those who have not yet come to Christ, but will come to Christ, these angels are serving them in these capacities. One other thing I mentioned about angels today is that angels are, as great as they are not, there's no redemption program when it comes to angels. It says in 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 11, whereas angels who are greater in strength and power do not bring a ready judgment against them because before the Lord. So they don't have the ability to challenge the demonic powers. But also in 2:4 it says, for if God did not spare angels who sinned, but cast them into the pit and delivered them to the chains of darkness, being kept for judgment, what we find here is there's no redemptive program for angels. What an amazing thing. Angels have no redemptive program. Christ did not die for angels. Christ died for us. And so while angels have more power than we do, as we just read, nevertheless, there's a special program for God's people that is not for angels. So that's a little bit about angels. Let's look a little bit more at angels tomorrow, before we begin to look at the demonic world.